The smell of unwashed bodies and fear filled the holding pen. Liam sat in the corner, his small hands wrapped around his knees. He was 8 years old, but he had learned not to cry anymore. Crying only made the guards hit harder. Around him, dozens of other prisoners waited. Some were tall, some had extra arms, and some looked like walking rocks. All of them were waiting to be sold. The slave market on Terminus 7 never closed. Every day, new ships arrived with new prisoners. Every day, someone was dragged onto the auction platform. "Next lot," a voice screeched through the speakers. The gates opened with a rusty squeal. Guards with shock prods pushed 5 prisoners forward. Liam was among them. He kept his head down and shuffled onto the platform. Bright lights hit his face. Beyond the lights, he could hear voices speaking in languages he didn't understand. "What is that tiny thing?" Someone laughed. "A human," the auctioneer announced. His voice dripped with disgust. "Class 3 laborer, good for small spaces and detailed work, doesn't eat much." More laughter rippled through the crowd. "It looks half dead already," another voice called out. The auctioneer tapped a screen. "Starting bid, 50 credits. Silence. No one wanted to waste money on a human child. Liam's fingers tightened around the small stone pendant hanging from his neck. His grandfather had given it to him the day before the raiders came. The old man's words echoed in his memory. "Keep this safe, boy. When the darkness comes, it will remember." Liam didn't understand what that meant, but the pendant was all he had left of home. 40 credits, the auctioneer said, lowering the price. 30 credits, a voice clicked from the back. The crowd parted. A massive insect-like creature pushed forward on 6 legs. Its mandibles clacked together as it studied Liam with compound eyes. "Sold to Master Dreth," the auctioneer said quickly, eager to move on. The Crowlith merchant grabbed Liam by the arm. Its grip was cold and hard like metal. It dragged him off the platform and through the market without a word. Other slaves followed behind, chained together in a long line. They were loaded into a transport ship. The interior was dark and smelled like chemicals. Liam found a spot against the wall and sat down. An older prisoner, a gray-skinned creature with 4 eyes, sat beside him. "First time off-world?" the creature asked. Liam nodded. "Where are they taking us?" "Dust Ridge mining colony, hard work, little food, no hope." The creature's voice was flat, emotionless. "You won't last long, human. Your kind never does in the deep mines." Liam said nothing. He pulled his pendant out from under his shirt and held it. The stone was smooth and warm, even in the cold ship. Sometimes, late at night, he thought he could feel it pulse like a heartbeat. The journey took 3 days. They were fed twice. The food was a gray paste that tasted like dirt, but Liam ate every drop. He had learned that lesson in the holding pens. Eat when you can. You never know when the next meal will come. When they arrived at Dust Ridge, the first thing Liam noticed was the color. Everything was brown and red. The sky, the ground, even the buildings looked like they were made of rust. The air tasted like metal and burned his throat. Master Dreth sorted the new slaves into groups. Liam was assigned to Tunnel 17 with 3 other prisoners. The first was Braunt, a massive creature made of living rock. The second was Tess, barely 3 feet tall with 4 thin arms. The third was Grent, an old soldier who had lost most of his teeth and 1 eye. "You're with us, little human," Grent said. His voice was rough but not unkind. "Stay close. The deep tunnels are dangerous." They were given tools and sent into the mines before the sun set. The tunnels were narrow and dark. The walls pressed in from all sides. Water dripped from cracks in the ceiling. The only light came from the glow sticks attached to their helmets. Liam's job was to crawl into spaces too small for the others. He would chip away at the rock and fill small bags with ore. His hands bled. His back ached, but he worked without complaint. The overseers walked through the tunnels with shock prods and whips. They wore masks to filter the air and boots that clanged on the metal tracks. One of them, a Crowlith named Drask, seemed to hate humans more than the others. "Work faster, meat," Drask would shout, jabbing Liam with the prod. Your kind is weak, pathetic. The galaxy should have left you to die on your worthless planet. Liam never responded. He just kept working. At night, the slaves were locked in barracks. The rooms were cold and crowded. Liam found a corner and curled up with his pendant. He whispered to it in the darkness the same words his grandfather had taught him. Old words, words. That felt like fire in his mouth. Bront watched him from across the room. "What are you saying, boy?" Liam stopped whispering. "Nothing, just remembering." "The overseers don't like humans who remember," Tess warned from her bunk. "They prefer us broken." "Let the boy have his memories," Grant said quietly. "Sometimes that's all that keeps us alive." That night Liam dreamed. In his dream he stood on a mountain of fire, wings stretched above him, blotting out the stars. A voice spoke, ancient and deep as stone. "Soon," it rumbled, "soon you will understand." Liam woke with sweat on his face and heat in his chest. The pendant was burning hot against his skin. He tucked it away quickly, before anyone could see the faint golden glow fading from the stone. Something was changing. He could feel it in his bones, in his blood. The voice from his dreams was getting louder, and the pendant was getting warmer every night. 6 months had passed since Liam arrived at Dust Ridge. His hands were covered in scars now, and his body had grown lean and hard from the work. But something else was changing too, something the other slaves noticed but didn't talk about. The pendant around his neck glowed brighter each night. Bront mentioned it first during a rest break deep in Tunnel 17. They sat in a small cavern, eating their ration of protein paste and drinking recycled water. "Boy, your stone is humming," Bront said. His voice sounded like grinding gravel. Liam looked down. The pendant was pulsing with a soft golden light. He quickly stuffed it under his shirt. "It's nothing." "That's not nothing," Tess said, her 4 hands nervously fidgeting with her tools. "I've seen power stones before. That's old magic, dangerous magic." Grant leaned forward, his one good eye studying Liam carefully. "Where did you get it?" "My grandfather," Liam said softly. "He told me it would protect me." "From what?" Liam didn't answer because he didn't know. The overseer's whistle echoed through the tunnel. Break time was over. They gathered their tools and went back to work. But Liam caught Grant watching him more often now. The old soldier knew something was wrong. Or something was right. Drask had become worse over the months. The Krolith overseer seemed obsessed with making Liam suffer. He would assign the boy to the deepest, most dangerous sections of the mine. He would cut his food rations in half. He would strike Liam with the shock prod for no reason at all. "Your kind doesn't deserve to breathe our air," Drask hissed one day, his mandibles clicking in anger. "Humans are parasites, weak, useless." Liam took the hit from the prod and kept digging, but his chest felt warm. The pendant burned against his skin, and somewhere in the back of his mind that deep voice rumbled with anger. The breaking point came on a day like any other. They were working in a new section of Tunnel 17, digging deeper than they had ever gone before. The rock here was different, darker, harder. The air tasted wrong. "I don't like this," Bront muttered. "The stone feels angry." "Stone doesn't feel anything," Drask snapped from behind them. "Dig faster or I'll leave you down here in the dark." Liam was crawling through a narrow crack, his small body the only one that could fit. He chipped at the rock with his pick, filling a bag with ore. Then he heard it, a sound like cracking ice. The walls around him shifted. "Get out," Grant shouted from the main tunnel. Liam tried to crawl backward, but the crack was closing. Rock pressed against his ribs. He couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Then the ceiling came down. The collapse was massive. Tons of rock fell in seconds. When the dust settled, Liam and his 3 friends were trapped in a small pocket, cut off from the rest of the mine. Drask's voice came through the communicator, crackling with static. "Tunnel 17 report." Grant grabbed the radio. "We're trapped, 4 of us. We need rescue equipment." Silence, then Drask laughed. "Rescue equipment costs money. You're just slaves, not worth it, especially not for a human." The radio went dead. Tess started to panic. Her forearms clutched at the rocks, trying to dig through. "We're going to die down here. We're going to die." "Stop," Bront said firmly. "Save your air." They sat in the darkness. Their glow sticks were fading. The air was already getting thin and stale. Grant checked his oxygen meter and said nothing, but Liam saw the reading. They had maybe 6 hours. "I'm sorry," Liam said quietly. "This is my fault. Drask wanted me dead. You're just caught in it." "Don't talk like that," Grant said. "We're a team. We live together or die together." 4 hours passed, then 5. The air was so thin now that every breath was a struggle. Tess had passed out. Bront's rocky skin was cracking from lack of moisture. Grant was barely conscious. Liam held his pendant in both hands. It was burning hot now, almost too hot to touch. The golden light was so bright that it lit up the entire pocket. "Tell us a story, boy," Grant whispered. "Give us something good to think about before the end." Liam's voice was hoarse, but he spoke. "My grandfather used to tell me about the old days, before humans went to space, before we knew about other worlds." "What did he say?" "He said humans weren't alone on Earth. We shared our world with dragons." Bront made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Dragons, like the legends." "Not legends," Liam said. The pendant was pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat now. "They were real, huge creatures of fire and scale. They bonded with humans. Some humans carried dragon blood in their veins." "Fairy tales," Grant muttered, but he was smiling. "My grandfather said he had dragon blood. He said I did too. He said when the darkness came, the dragon would remember." The temperature in the pocket was rising. Sweat ran down Liam's face. The rocks around them were getting warm. No, they were getting hot. Liam's eyes began to glow. Not a reflection, not a trick of the light. His eyes were glowing with golden fire. Grant sat up, suddenly alert. "Boy, what's happening to you?" "I don't know," Liam gasped. His skin felt like it was burning from the inside. The pendant flared so bright that the others had to look away. "Something's waking up." The voice in his head was no longer a whisper. It was a roar. "I am awake." Scales erupted from Liam's arms. Bronze and gold, they spread across his skin like armor. His hands twisted, fingers lengthening into claws. His teeth grew sharp. His body convulsed with pain as bones shifted and reformed. "Hold on, boy," Grant shouted, but his voice sounded far away. Liam's back arched. Something was pushing out from between his shoulder blades. The pain was incredible. Then, with a tearing sound, wings burst through his shirt. Massive wings covered in scales that shimmered in the golden light. The dragon's spirit flooded into his consciousness. Memories that weren't his own crashed through his mind. Ancient hunts, flights over primeval forests, the bond between dragon and human forged in fire and trust. "The child suffers," the dragon's voice rumbled through Liam's thoughts. "The child's friends suffer. This cannot stand." Liam tried to speak, but his throat was changing. When words came out, they were mixed with smoke and flame. "Help them," he managed to say. "Please save them." "We are one now," the dragon said. "Your pain is my pain, your will is my will. Together we rise." Power flooded through Liam's body. His transformation accelerated. His small human form was consumed by the growing dragon. 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet of bronze scales and golden eyes and terrible, beautiful wings. The rock around them began to crack, not from collapse but from heat. The stone was melting. Bront stared in shock. Tess woke up screaming. Grant just smiled and said, "Well, I'll be damned," the boy was telling the truth. The dragon that had been Liam filled the pocket completely now. But within the dragon's mind, the boy was still there, still aware, still in control. "Hold on to each other." Liam's voice came from the dragon's mouth, deeper but still recognizably his. "This is going to be loud." The dragon threw back its head and roared. The sound shook the mountain. Then it unleashed its fire. The explosion rocked the entire mining colony. Workers on the surface fell to their knees as the ground shook. Buildings swayed. Alarms screamed. And from the depths of Tunnel 17, a pillar of golden fire erupted into the sky. The dragon burst from the mountain like a bullet from a gun. Rock and debris flew in all directions. Its wings spread wide, catching the air for the first time. The sensation was overwhelming. Liam could feel every current, every shift in the wind. The dragon's instincts guided him, teaching him how to fly even as they soared higher. In his claws, held as gently as a mother holds her children, were Bront, Tess, and Grent. They clung to each other, eyes wide with terror and wonder. The dragon circled once over the colony, giving Liam time to see what he had been too small to notice before. The place was huge. Dozens of buildings, hundreds of slaves, and everywhere armed guards rushing to their posts. "Set us down, boy." Grent's voice was calm despite everything. "Somewhere safe." The dragon descended to an open area near the slave barracks. It landed with surprising grace, the impact barely felt. Liam carefully lowered his friends to the ground, making sure they were steady before releasing them. Other slaves had gathered, staring in shock. Some backed away in fear, others just stood frozen. The dragon's form began to shift. The massive body grew smaller, wings folded and vanished, scales receded. In seconds, Liam stood there in human form, though bronze scales still covered his arms and neck. His eyes still glowed gold. "Liam," Tess whispered. He nodded. "It's still me. I can feel the dragon and it can feel me. We're together now." Before anyone could respond, plasma bolts began to rain down. The overseers had arrived with their weapons. Drask led them, his shock prod replaced with a heavy plasma rifle. "Kill it," Drask screamed. "Kill the abomination." The bolts hit Liam's chest and arms. They should have burned through flesh. Instead, they splashed against his scales like water hitting stone. The dragon's armor was harder than any metal the Krolith possessed. Liam raised his hand. "Stop, I don't want to hurt anyone." "Your property," Drask fired again. "You exist to serve us." Something snapped inside Liam, not anger, something colder. The dragon's ancient wisdom spoke in his mind. This creature profits from suffering. This creature deserves no mercy. "No," Liam said aloud, responding to both the dragon and Drask. "No more suffering, no more slavery. It ends today." He transformed again, but this time he stayed smaller. Only 15 feet tall, a compromise between human and full dragon. It was easier to control this way, easier to be precise. The dragon moved faster than the guards could track. It batted weapons from hands with its tail. It breathed controlled bursts of flame that melted guns but didn't touch flesh. In 30 seconds, every overseer was disarmed and on the ground. Drask tried to run. The dragon's claws closed around him, lifting him into the air. "You called humans weak," Liam's voice rumbled from the dragon's throat. "You called us parasites. You beat me, starved me, left me to die." "Please," Drask begged, his mandibles clicking in terror. "I was just following orders." "No, you enjoyed it." The dragon's grip tightened slightly. "But I am not like you. I won't kill you. I'll give you what you gave us, nothing." He dropped Drask in the dirt and turned to the other slaves. Hundreds of them now gathered around the scene. They were from a dozen different species. Some had been here for years, some for decades. "You're all free," Liam announced. "Anyone who wants to leave can leave. Anyone who wants to stay and build something better can stay. The Galactic Council will send ships," one of the slaves said. "They'll destroy all of us." "Let them come." The words were barely out of his mouth when the sky lit up. Orbital defense platforms were activating. Military ships were descending from the station above. Drask must have called for backup before the fight. 6 fighter craft screamed toward the colony, weapons hot. "Get to shelter," Grent shouted at the other slaves. But Liam was already moving. The dragon launched into the air, wings beating hard. The fighters broke formation, trying to surround him. They were fast, designed for space combat, equipped with missiles and energy weapons. The dragon was faster. It rolled under the first volley of missiles, the projectiles passing harmlessly overhead. It climbed straight up, defying the fighters' expectations. When one craft tried to follow, the dragon's tail smashed into its wing, sending it spinning toward the ground. The pilot ejected just in time. "This is Terminus Command," a voice crackled over open channels. "Unidentified creature, stand down or be destroyed." Liam didn't bother responding. He was too busy learning how to fight in the air. The dragon's instincts helped, but this was different from hunting prey in ancient skies. These enemies shot back. A plasma bolt caught his wing. It burned, but the scales held. The dragon twisted, bringing the offending fighter into view. Instead of fire, Liam tried something else. He dove at the craft, matching its speed, then carefully gripped it in his claws. The metal crumpled but didn't tear. He released it, watching as it limped back toward the station. "I don't want to hurt you," Liam roared, his voice carrying across the radio frequencies. "Stop attacking and no one else gets hurt." For an answer, the remaining fighters launched their full payload. Dozens of missiles converged on the dragon from all directions. The dragon's breath weapon was instinctive. Liam barely thought about it before a cone of superheated plasma erupted from his mouth. The missiles detonated early, their explosions creating a beautiful but deadly fireworks display. When the smoke cleared, the dragon was untouched. The fighters retreated, regrouping at a safe distance. They had underestimated this enemy badly. Now they were reporting back to command, calling for bigger guns. Liam descended to the colony. The freed slaves were cheering. Bront raised one massive fist in salute. Tess was crying. Tears of joy, Grant just grinned. "That was something, boy," the old soldier said. "But you know what comes next, right?" Liam nodded. "They'll send everything they have." "And you'll fight." "I'll try not to fight. I'll try to make them listen." Liam looked at the pendant, still hanging around his neck even in dragon form. "My grandfather said this power was for protection, not conquest. I won't become like them." Over the next hours, more ships arrived, but they kept their distance, circling like cautious predators. Liam could feel the dragon's urge to attack, to dominate, to establish territory, but he pushed back against those instincts. "We're better than that," he told the dragon. "We have to be." The dragon rumbled in his mind. "You have wisdom for one so young. Very well, we wait, we watch, but if they threaten your friends, we show no mercy." "Agreed." A broadcast came through on all channels. "This is Admiral Vosk of the Galactic Defense Fleet. You have committed acts of terrorism and destruction of Council property. Surrender immediately or face total annihilation." Liam took a deep breath and responded. "This is Liam. I'm a human. You bought and sold my people like animals. You worked us to death in your mines. That ends now. I'm not surrendering, but I'm not attacking either. Leave us alone and there won't be a fight." "Unacceptable. You're coming with us, dead or alive." The dragon's eyes blazed brighter. Liam felt its anger mixing with his own, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Then I guess we'll see who's stronger," he said quietly. "Come and try." The battle fleet arrived at dawn. 17 ships, ranging from small destroyers to massive cruisers. They formed a blockade around Dust Ridge, their weapons trained on the colony below. On the ground, Liam stood in the center of the freed slaves, his scales gleaming in the early light. "They mean to kill us all," Bront said. His rocky skin had reformed after the collapse, but cracks still showed where he had been injured. "They mean to scare us," Liam corrected. "They want us to give up without a fight." Tess clutched her tools nervously. "Can you really fight all those ships?" Liam didn't answer. The truth was, he didn't know. The dragon was powerful, but those were military vessels with shields and heavy weapons. He was still learning what this new body could do. Admiral Vosk's voice boomed across the colony. "You have won. Hour to surrender. After that, we open fire. Everyone will die." "He's bluffing," Grant said. "The Council doesn't want to explain why they destroyed an entire mining colony. Bad for business." "Maybe," Liam said, "but I'm not risking everyone's lives on a maybe." He looked at the hundreds of slaves who had gathered around him. They were afraid but standing firm. Many had found weapons from the fallen overseers. Others just held mining tools. They were ready to fight for their freedom. "Listen to me," Liam said loudly. "Get inside the deepest tunnels, take food and water, seal the entrances. If this goes bad, at least you'll have a chance." "And you?" Bront asked. "I'm going up there," Liam pointed at the fleet. "I'm going to end this." Before anyone could argue, he transformed. The full dragon emerged, 30 feet of muscle and scale and fury. His wings spread wide, and with a powerful leap, he launched into the sky. The ascent was faster this time. The dragon's body had grown stronger overnight, adapting to its new existence. Within seconds, Liam was at the same altitude as the fleet. He hovered there, wings beating steadily, staring at the assembled warships. "This is your last chance," Admiral Vosk transmitted. "Return to the surface and surrender." "No," Liam said simply. The fleet opened fire. Plasma bolts and missiles filled the sky. The dragon twisted and rolled, dodging most of the incoming fire. What he couldn't dodge, his scales absorbed. Burns appeared on his wings and sides, painful but not crippling. The dragon's healing was already working, scales regenerating as fast as they were damaged. Liam breathed fire at the nearest destroyer. The stream of plasma hit its shields, making them flare bright blue, but the shields held. These weren't mining tools or security weapons. This was military-grade hardware. "You cannot win," Vosk's voice was smug. "Surrender now." The dragon's rage built. Ancient memories surfaced. Dragons didn't surrender. Dragons dominated. Dragons burned their enemies to ash and scattered the remains to the winds. "No," Liam said again, but this time he was talking to himself. To the dragon. "We're not monsters. There has to be another way." He changed tactics. Instead of fighting the entire fleet, he focused on one ship. The smallest destroyer, positioned at the edge of the formation. The dragon dove at it with incredible speed. The ship's point defense. Systems activated, but Liam was too fast. He landed on the hull with a clang that echoed through the vessel. His claws dug into the metal, finding purchase. Then he began to tear. Not randomly, precisely. The dragon's ancient knowledge helped him identify weak points. He ripped away sensor arrays, tore off weapon mounts, shredded the engine cowlings. In under a minute, the destroyer was crippled and drifting. Then he moved to the next ship. "All vessels evasive action," Vosk ordered. But it was too late. The dragon was already on the second destroyer. This time he used his fire breath differently. Instead of trying to burn through the shields, he targeted specific points. The shield generators themselves, exposed on the hull. Without shields, the ship was vulnerable. Liam gripped the ship's communication array and ripped it free. Then he kicked off, moving to the next target. "He's disabling us one by one," someone shouted over the radio. "Then destroy him together," Vosk commanded. All 15 remaining ships turned their weapons on the dragon. The combined firepower was devastating. Liam's scales, tough as they were, couldn't handle this much damage. His wing tore. His side burned. Blood, golden and bright, sprayed into the void. The pain was incredible. The dragon roared in agony and fury. Its instinct was to retreat to heal, but Liam pushed forward. He had to end this quickly or not at all. He dove toward the flagship, Vosk's command cruiser. It was the biggest ship in the fleet, bristling with weapons, but size made it slow. The dragon was faster. He crashed into the bridge section, claws scrambling for grip on the smooth hull. Alarms blared inside the ship. Liam could hear shouting through the metal. "Get it off, get it off." Point defense turrets swiveled, trying to target the dragon at point-blank range. Liam breathed fire directly into the gun barrels, melting them from the inside. Then he began tearing his way through the hull. Not to kill, to reach the bridge. The metal shrieked as it gave way. Atmosphere vented in a white plume. Liam pushed through, his body somehow able to survive in the vacuum of space. The dragon's physiology was beyond anything he understood. He tore open the final layer and found himself staring into the bridge. Crew members in pressure suits scattered. Admiral Vosk stood at the center, a tall, scaled creature with multiple eyes and a ridge of spines down. His back. Liam shifted to his hybrid form, small enough to fit through the hole he had made. Scales covered his body, protecting him from the vacuum. He dropped onto the bridge floor with a heavy thud. "You wanted to talk," Liam's voice came out as a growl. "Let's talk." Vosk drew a sidearm. "You've destroyed council property, killed council personnel." "I haven't killed anyone," Liam said. "I've been very careful about that. Can you say the same? How many slaves died in these mines? How many humans?" "Slaves are not people," Vosk said coldly. "They're resources." The dragon's fury exploded. Liam moved faster than Vosk could track, disarming him with one swipe of his claws. He grabbed the admiral by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "I could kill you right now," Liam said softly. "It would be easy, you deserve it." "Then do it," Vosk choked out. "Prove you're the monster we think you are." For a long moment, Liam stood there holding the admiral's life in his claws. The dragon urged him to squeeze, to end it, to send a message that could never be ignored. But Liam thought of his grandfather, of the pendant, of the dragon's purpose. Protection, not conquest. He dropped Vosk to the floor. "I'm not a monster, I'm just someone who's had enough." He activated the ship's communication system, broadcasting to the entire fleet and beyond, to every listening station in the sector. "My name is Liam, I'm human. For too long, my people have been treated as property by the Galactic Council. We've been bought and sold, worked to death, and thrown away when we broke. That ends today. I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not begging for mercy. I'm telling you, humans are free, all of them, everywhere. Release them or face me." The transmission ended. Liam transformed back into full dragon form, too large for the bridge now. He simply smashed through the hull and flew back into space. The fleet didn't pursue. They were too busy trying to repair their damaged ships and process what had just happened. On Dust Ridge, the freed slaves watched their defender return, trailing blood but victorious. They cheered as the dragon landed. They chanted his name. Liam transformed back to human form and collapsed. Bront caught him before he hit the ground. "Rest, boy," the big creature rumbled. "You've earned it." But Liam knew there would be no rest. Not yet. The galaxy had heard his message. Some would heed it, others would come for revenge. The war for human freedom had only just begun. News of Liam's message spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, human slaves on 100 worlds heard about the Dragon Boy who had fought an entire fleet. Some thought it was a lie. Others dared to hope. On Dust Ridge, Liam was healing. The dragon's regeneration was remarkable. Burns that should have taken months to heal were gone in days. Torn wing membranes sealed themselves overnight. But the exhaustion ran deeper than physical wounds. "You need to eat," Tess said, bringing him a tray of actual food, not the usual slave rations. The freed workers had raided the overseer's stores and found real meat, real vegetables. Liam ate slowly. Everything tasted strange to his changed body. The dragon seemed to prefer raw meat, which disturbed his human sensibilities. They were still learning to coexist. "What happens now?" he asked Grant. The old soldier sat nearby, cleaning a plasma rifle they had salvaged. Now the galaxy decides if you're a hero or a terrorist." "I didn't mean for any of this." "The best revolutions rarely start on purpose." Grant checked the rifle's charge. "But you started something, boy, can't stop it now." Reports came in through salvaged communication equipment. Human slaves on the prison world of Kalthos had revolted, overwhelming their guards. On the factory station of Vega 9, humans had seized control of an entire manufacturing deck. Not all the uprisings succeeded. Some were crushed brutally, but the movement was growing. Then came the other news, the news that changed everything. "Liam, you need to see this." Bront called from the communications center they had set up in the old overseer's office. The screen showed a grainy video from a mining colony 3 sectors away. A human girl, maybe 12 years old, was backed into a corner by armed guards. She was crying, terrified. Then her eyes began to glow, gold just like Liam's. The transformation was faster than Liam's had been, maybe because she had seen the videos of him. Maybe because the dragon's spirit in her bloodline recognized that it wasn't alone anymore. Either way, within seconds, a bronze dragon stood where the girl had been. The guards ran. The girl, still in dragon form, collapsed and transformed back, looking confused and scared. "There are others," Liam whispered. Over the next week, 3 more. Awakening were reported. A teenage boy on a transport ship, a young man in a factory, a child in an agricultural colony, all human, all carrying the dormant dragon bloodline that activated under extreme stress. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Liam watched the broadcast on a stolen monitor. Representatives from hundreds of species argued about what to do with the human problem. "They're too dangerous to be left free," one representative insisted. "These dragon creatures could destroy entire fleets." "Then perhaps we shouldn't have enslaved them in the first place," another countered. The debate raged for hours. Finally, the council's high chairman called for order. He was an ancient creature, his species long-lived and traditionally neutral. "The council will send a delegation to this dust ridge," the chairman announced. "We will negotiate with the human called Liam. If negotiation fails, we will authorize military action to eliminate the threat." "They're coming here," Tess said nervously. "Good," Liam replied. "Let them come, let them see what they created." The delegation arrived 5 days later, 3 ships escorted by twice as many warships, but these kept their weapons powered down. This was meant to be peaceful. The delegates were escorted to the colony's central square, now cleared of debris and set up as a meeting ground. Liam waited for them in human form, though his scales were visible on his arms and neck. Bront, Grant, and Tess stood with him. The lead delegate was a Shrell, a species known for their diplomatic skills. She had 4 arms and crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. "I am Delegate Shen," she said. "I speak for the Galactic Council." "I'm Liam. I speak for myself and anyone else who chooses freedom over chains." Shen's expression was unreadable. "You've caused significant disruption to galactic commerce and stability." "You mean I've disrupted your slave trade?" "The Council prefers the term indentured labor." "I prefer the term slavery, because that's what it is." Liam kept his voice calm. "You buy and sell people, you work them to death, you treat them as property. Many species participate in this system. It's how the galaxy operates." "Then the galaxy is broken." Shen paused, considering her words carefully. "What do you want, Liam?" "Freedom for all humans, everywhere. Full citizenship in the Galactic Council. Reparations for those who were enslaved, and protection under Council law." "Impossible. That would destabilize the entire economic system." Liam's eyes began to glow. "Then watch as more dragons awaken. Watch as more humans transform. We didn't ask for this power. You gave it to us by pushing us to the breaking point." "Are you threatening the Council?" "I'm warning you. The human spirit doesn't break, it adapts, it evolves. You tried to crush us and we became dragons. What happens if you keep trying?" Another delegate, a massive armored creature, stepped forward. "We could destroy you all, every human, every dragon, sterilize every world you touch." The dragon inside Liam roared with fury. It took all his control to keep from transforming. "Try it. See what happens when you make martyrs of us. See how many more dragons awaken when humans across the galaxy face extinction." Shen raised a hand, silencing the other delegate. "Let us speak hypothetically. If the Council were to agree to your terms, how would you ensure that these dragons don't become conquerors themselves?" "The same way any civilization does. Laws, justice, community." Liam gestured to his friends. "I didn't become a dragon to rule, I became one to protect. That's what dragons are, protectors, guardians. We bond with those we care about." "Pretty words," Shen said, "but we need guarantees." Over the next hours, they negotiated. Liam held firm on freedom and citizenship. He compromised on the timeline for implementation and the structure of oversight. Shen was tough but fair, genuinely trying to find a solution that wouldn't lead to galactic war. Finally, as the twin suns set over Dust Ridge, they reached an agreement. The Covenant of Free Species, they called it. Humans would be granted full citizenship. Slavery would be abolished for all species over a 10-year transition period. Current slaves would be freed and compensated. In exchange, humans with dragon blood would register with the Council and agree to only use their power in self-defense or Council-sanctioned emergencies. "This is just the beginning," Shen said as she prepared to leave. "There will be resistance. Some Council members will never accept this." "I know," Liam said, "but it's a start." After the delegation left, Bront clapped Liam on the shoulder, nearly knocking him down. "You did it, boy. You actually did it." "We did it," Liam corrected. "All of us." That night, Liam stood on a hill overlooking the colony. He could feel other dragons across the galaxy, their presence like distant stars in his mind. Some were afraid. Some were angry. Some were just confused. He transformed, letting the dragon spread its wings under the stars. The form was easier now, natural. He could shift between human and dragon as easily as breathing. "We're not alone anymore," he told the dragon spirit inside him. "We never were," the dragon replied. "We just forgot for a while." A small ship landed nearby. A young human boy stumbled out, his eyes glowing gold, scales appearing on his skin. He was transforming for the first time, scared and lost. Liam landed beside him and shifted to human form. "It's okay," he said gently. "I know what you're going through. You're not a monster, you're not a weapon, you're a dragon, and I'm going to teach you what that means." The boy looked at him with wide, terrified eyes. Then slowly he nodded. Across the galaxy, the age of human dragons had begun, and Liam, the first to awaken, would be their guide. 3 months after the Covenant was signed, Dust Ridge had transformed from a mining colony into something new. The freed slaves had built proper homes. Gardens grew where ore processors once stood. Children played in courtyards instead of working in tunnels. It was becoming a real settlement, a symbol of what freedom looked like. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about the changes. Liam stood in the training field, watching 5 young humans practice their transformations. They ranged in age from 9 to 17. Each one had awakened to their dragon blood in the months since his message spread. Each one had come to Dust Ridge seeking guidance. "Focus on the feeling, not the form," Liam instructed. "The dragon isn't separate from you, it's part of who you are." The youngest, a boy named David, managed a partial transformation. Scales covered his arms and small wings sprouted from his back. He was grinning despite the obvious effort it took. "Good," Liam said. "Now hold it. Learn to be comfortable in between." Tess approached from the communications building, her 4 arms waving urgently. "Liam, we have a problem, big problem." In the command center, a message was playing on repeat. It was from a faction within the Council called the Sovereignty Union. They had rejected the Covenant and were calling for the complete elimination of all dragons. "We will not bow to these abominations," their leader declared. A militant species called the Krenth, known for their aggressive expansion policies. "We will cleanse the galaxy of this dragon plague." "How many ships do they have?" Grant asked. 30 capital ships, twice that in support vessels, Bront reported, reading from the tactical display. "And they're not alone, 4 other species have joined them." Liam felt his chest tighten. This was exactly what he had feared. The Covenant had brought peace with most of the Council, but the extremists would never accept humans as equals. "They're heading here," Tess said quietly, "straight for Dust Ridge." "Of course they are." Liam looked at the growing settlement outside. Families, children, people who had finally found safety. "We're a symbol. If they destroy us, they prove that the Covenant was wrong." "Then we evacuate," Grant said. "Get everyone off-world before they arrive." "And go where? They'll hunt us down wherever we go." Liam shook his head. "No, we stay, we stand." Over the next 2 days, they prepared. The young dragons trained harder, pushing their limits. Grant organized the non-dragon defenders, setting up weapon emplacements salvaged from previous battles. Bront reinforced the buildings, creating shelters that could withstand orbital bombardment. But everyone knew the truth. They were vastly outnumbered and outgunned. On the third day, the Sovereignty fleet arrived. Their ships darkened the sky, weapons already charging. Liam stood in the center of the settlement, transformed into his full dragon form. The 5 young dragons stood with him, smaller but no less determined. "Last chance to surrender," came the transmission from the Krenth commander. "Give up the dragons and we'll let the others live." "No one here is property," Liam transmitted back. "We're all free, and we'll die free if we have to." "So be it." The bombardment began. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, striking the outer buildings. Shields that Bront had jury-rigged from salvaged ship parts flared and held, but barely. They couldn't take much more. Liam launched into the sky, the young dragons following. They had practiced this. Strike fast, strike hard, disable rather than destroy. It was their only chance. But as they climbed toward the fleet, something unexpected happened. New ships appeared, dropping out of faster than light. Travel Council ships. Dozens of them, bearing the official insignia of the Galactic Defense Force. "This is Fleet Commander Reth," a familiar voice transmitted. It was one of the species that had voted for the Covenant. "The Council has authorized us to defend Dust Ridge. The Sovereignty Union is in violation of Council law." The Sovereignty fleet split their attention, some ships turning to face this new threat. The battle became chaos. Liam and his students dove into the fray. They were outnumbered, but dragons were faster and more maneuverable than any ship. David, despite his small size, managed to disable a destroyer's weapons. The others followed his example, working as a team. But the Krenth commander wasn't interested in the Council fleet. His flagship, a massive dreadnought, powered through the battle toward Dust Ridge. Its main cannon began charging, a weapon designed to crack planets. "He's going to destroy the settlement," Tess's voice crackled over the radio. Liam saw what was happening. The commander didn't care about victory anymore. This was about sending a message, about proving that dragons could be killed even if it meant sacrificing everything. The dragon inside Liam roared with fury and determination. This was what he had been born for, what the dragon's spirit had awakened for: protection. He flew faster than he ever had before, pushing his body beyond its limits. The other dragons couldn't keep up. This was his fight. The dreadnought's cannon fired. A beam of pure energy enough to boil oceans lanced toward Dust Ridge. Liam intercepted it. The beam hit his chest, and the pain was indescribable. Every scale, every nerve, every cell screamed. But he held position, wings spread wide, channeling the energy through his body. The dragon's ancient magic responded, absorbing the blast, converting it into something else. Heat, light, and above all, power. Liam's body began to glow. Bronze scales turned to brilliant gold. The dragon was evolving, changing, becoming something more. The energy that should have killed him was instead transforming him into what dragons were always meant to be: guardians, shields, protectors of the innocent. When the beam stopped, Liam hung in space, alive and burning with inner fire. The dreadnought's crew stared in shock. They had hit him with everything they had, and he had survived. Now it was his turn. Liam didn't use fire. He didn't destroy the dreadnought. Instead, he landed on its hull and, with strength born of desperation and transformation, began to push. The dragon's power had grown exponentially. He pushed the massive ship, forcing it away from Dust Ridge, away from the battle. The Krenth commander screamed orders, trying to shake the dragon loose. But Liam held on, pushing harder. He pushed the dreadnought back, until it was far from anything it could hurt. Then he let go and spoke, his voice carrying across all frequencies. "This is over. Stand down, or I will disable every ship in your fleet. I don't want to hurt anyone, but I will protect my people." The commander's response was to open fire with point defense weapons. The shots bounced off Liam's enhanced scales. Liam sighed. Some people would never learn. He systematically disabled the dreadnought's weapons, engines, and communication arrays. Then he moved to the next ship, and the next. The young dragons had learned from his example and were doing the same to smaller vessels. Within an hour, the Sovereignty fleet was crippled and drifting, not destroyed, not killed, just defeated. The Council fleet moved in, securing the disabled ships and arresting their crews. Commander Reth transmitted to Liam privately. "That was impressive and restrained. The Council will remember this." Liam descended to Dust Ridge, his body slowly returning to normal as the excess energy faded. He transformed back to human form and collapsed in the settlement square. Grent caught him. "Did we win?" Liam asked weakly. "You won," Grent said. "You proved that dragons aren't monsters. You proved that strength can be used for protection, not conquest." Over the following weeks, the galaxy processed what had happened. The Sovereignty Union was dissolved. Its leaders faced council justice, and the Covenant was reinforced, its terms made permanent. More humans awakened to their dragon blood. Liam trained them all, teaching them the same lesson he had learned. Power without wisdom is just destruction. Strength without compassion is just tyranny. Dust Ridge became the Dragon Academy, a place where young humans learned to master their gifts. Liam was its founder and first teacher, but he wasn't alone. Bront taught resilience, Tess taught precision, Grant taught strategy. One evening, Liam stood on the hill overlooking the settlement. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of gold. And Bronze, a young human girl, approached, her eyes beginning to show the first hints of gold. She was scared, confused, just like he had been. Liam smiled and knelt down to her level. "It's okay to be afraid, but you're not alone, you're never alone. We're dragons, and dragons protect each other." He took off his grandfather's pendant and placed it around her neck. "This helped me when I was lost. Now it's your turn to carry it." The girl touched the stone and it pulsed with warm light. In that moment, Liam felt the dragon's spirit's approval. This was right. This was what they were meant for. Across the galaxy, humanity had found its place among the stars. Not as slaves, not as conquerors, but as dragons. Guardians of the innocent, protectors of the weak, and above all, symbols of hope for anyone who had ever been told they were worthless. The Age of Dragons had truly begun.